Richard, you got a pen? Let's forget.
Jay, do I have enough time to pick my nose?
Yes, you're live. And it's 2 p.m., so we will begin. Three, two, one. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome. As we are getting started, I'm going to ask each of you as you're tuning in to let us know where you're tuning in from. Drop your name in the chat and let us know what city you're tuning in from. I'm Jeremiah Òjó, and we'll get started here in a moment. While you're also doing that, I also want you all to keep this discussion interactive. We'll do formalities in a moment and talk about kind of rules of engagement, but I want you all to participate in the discussion with us. And I'm gonna launch a poll and ask you all to give us your opinion on how you define wealth, how you best define wealth. So after you let us know where you're tuning in from, we would love to know and see your perspective on how you define wealth. So vote for us. Welcome. As additional people are joining us, we'll get started here in a moment. Just want to know where everyone is tuning in from. Let us know. Drop your name in the chat and what city you are tuning in from. Welcome. Also, we've launched a poll to keep this discussion interactive. So we want to know, choosing one of three, how do you best define wealth? God, gold, or kinfolk? Vote for us. And we'll get started here in a moment. Thank you for joining us. Also during this time, if you've already voted and have let us know where you're tuning in from, go ahead and let your friends and family know on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram that we are live. So share and let other people know that our conversation is going to begin shortly. We'd love to have additional folks in the conversation. Shout out to all the great people who are tuning in. We have Christina Clark in Atlanta, Alvin Kante, what's up, brother? In Jonesboro, Georgia. Young, good to see you. Also in Atlanta, Jamal in Boston, Stephen from Brooklyn, Gabby in DC, Stephen from Brooklyn. I am Jeremiah Òjó. I am going to be your host and moderator of this conversation. I'm coming to you live from Bed-Stuy, Do-or-Die, Brooklyn, New York, here at Richard Beavers Gallery. If you're just joining us, please shout us out. Let us know where you're from, as well as vote in the chat or the poll that you see on your screen now by choosing one. How do you best define wealth? God, gold, or kinfolk? give it another minute or so. You know, Black folks like to show up on their own time. So we're gonna give a little extra time. Shout out to Kay, fellow artist, also in the exhibition. We see you here tuning in. Welcome, sister. Luis from Atlanta, thanks for joining us. Carol in Tuskegee, Alabama, welcome, welcome. Please be sure to vote. Let us know how you best define wealth. And we're gonna get started here in a moment. Rachel, what's up? How you doing? Welcome. All right. So we, again, are live here at Richard Beavers Gallery in Brooklyn, New York. I'm gonna take a moment to invite Richard Beavers to come say hello and check out everybody. And Richard?
Wow. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Artist Talk, which is session 2 for Wealth Surrounds Me, God, Gold, and Kinfolk. I'd like to thank all of you from far and near who have taken the time to participate. I'd like to thank all of the artists, our moderator, Jeremiah Òjó, who is also the curator and organizer of this phenomenal show. We look forward to a stimulating, engaging, and fun conversation, and we hope each and every one of you enjoy it. Thank you once again. Peace.
Thanks, Richard. As Richard said, I am Jeremiah Olayinka Òjó. I am the curator, founder of Ilèkùn Wa, which means our door in Yoruba. I had the great pleasure of curating this exhibition and working with 9 amazing artists from all around the world to put together this exhibition. For those of you who joined us last week, you got a chance to learn a little bit about the exhibition, but if this is your first time joining us, I want to kind of give you an introduction of the exhibition. So as I mentioned before, we are tuning in live here from Brooklyn, New York at Richard Beavers Gallery in Bed-Stuy. This exhibition was birthed out of a conversation that both Richard and I had, encouraging me to curate an exhibition. With the work that I do, managing and supporting visual artists of African descent around the globe, I have had the pleasure to see so many different artists from different corners of Africa, Europe, the United States, and around the world create. And one of the through points that I saw in that is how people are performing and defining wealth. So when Richard and I had a conversation in August of last year, he said, how about you tell your story? You know, I've been working with the gallery about 2 years now as a management consultant and also doing artist relations. So he said, curate an exhibition and put your name on it. So that's what I did. My middle name, Olayinka, is Yoruba for wealth surrounds me. So literally this exhibition is not only my view, but it has my name on it. Wealth surrounds me, God, Gold, and Kinfolk really packages how I see and understand Black people, but particularly artists of African descent and their views on how they see and define wealth. So just a couple rules of engagement. The conversation here will feature 3 amazing artists that will introduce themselves here in a moment. But if you have questions, I encourage you to drop them not only in the chat, but also in the Q&A. We also have my wonderful assistant, Clarissa Gordon. She'll also be engaging you in the chat. So feel free to drop questions or comments. We want to keep it live and engaging. This is the second of the third session, and let's get started. So let's begin by having the artists introduce themselves. So Alfred, go ahead and tell everybody who you are. You have to unmute yourself. All right, there we go.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Alfred Kante. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, working. I've been here since around 2005. I'm originally from Fort Valley. I'm a graduate of Hampton University and Georgia Southern. In regard to my practice, I'm a painter, a sculptor, and a printmaker, a pluralist, as you would say. In regard to what I'm doing now, I'm working through a series entitled Two Fronts. I guess a little bit of a perfunctory about who I am in regard to my practice. You know, all my work is about Black folks. You know, our culture, our history, how we interact. But in this particular iteration, I'm working through the condition of our people. And in Two Fronts, it's a practice, a body of works that explores the battle that we're fighting on two fronts. We're fighting a battle from without in regard to white supremacy, and when it comes to public policies that have been historically leveled against us, that keep us in the condition that we're in. And then the other side of that battle is how those societal factors and institutions cause us to react, to interact with one another in regard to how we vote, how we spend our money, how we raise our children, so on and so forth. So that is the battle that I'm depicting in these works.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alfred. And we look forward to engaging you further in the discussion. Next, we want to welcome DaaPo, Rayo, my guy.
Hello, everyone. Who am I? Funny thing is that this is usually one of the hardest questions that I've always had to answer, because there's a funny story behind it. To the human that I am and what I bring to the table, I'm a man with no filters. What you see is what you get. So the moment I introduce myself to you, you get a wind of who I am totally aside just by my introduction to you. My interrogations with the world, the fact that I'm constantly reinventing myself. So it's hard to say in a very few words who I really, really am. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a master tailor. I'm a collector of arts, I do carpentry, I make videos every time. But every medium that I use to portray or to say or to tell a story, which is who I am, speaks about the fact that there are no boundaries with me. I talk about me a lot in everything I do. I'm a Nigerian, and then I became an American. So I'm literally telling you the story of my identity, the dualities of it, the layers as an example of my trajectory. Identity to me means two things in the opposite direction, the opposite ends. It's a word that says a person is unique, but it also means I'm identical to a bunch of other people. So through my work, I'm telling a tale of two cities. And that's why I go by the name DaaPo, which literally means this is DaaPo in Yoruba, one of the largest ethnic group of multi-ethnic West Africa. So that's who I am, basically. I'm a storyteller, and everything that I do, every breath that I take is about who I am and my connection and my constant conversation and interaction with people, depending on the medium. It doesn't matter what it is.
Wonderful.
That's me.
Wonderful.
In simplicity. I hope that that's good enough.
Oh, that's a nice intro. I look forward to learning more, and the audience looks forward to learning more about you and your practice and all the mastery of the tailoring work that you have done and shared with us through your art. Next, we'd like to welcome my main man, Esteban Whiteside, coming to us from DC.
Hello, everyone. My name is Esteban Whiteside. I'm a self-taught artist from Asheville, North Carolina. Been living in DC for about 6 years now. Basically my work deals with social and political issues that, minorities face. Mostly, pretty much all my work deals with stuff, with the Black community, issues with the Black community, and then also just, current events. Try to keep track of everything that's going on. And then, my work reflects that. I do a lot of wood pieces as well as working on canvas, and heavily influenced by folk art, especially Southern folk art, because that's where I'm from. And my work, I aim for my work to shame the oppressor and to build up the people that are oppressed. So in every piece, that's kind of the main theme behind my work.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your beautiful work. I have the honor to sit actually in front of Esteban's work here, The Gift and the Curse, which he'll share much more about here momentarily. But I want to begin the conversation by asking each of you artists the same question that I actually posed to our audience. And even we're engaging a number of people this morning on Facebook and Instagram about how they define wealth. So Alfred, if you could tell us, how do you personally define wealth?
To me, wealth is the aggregation of resources, and regardless of be it gold or kinfolk or God, religion, it's an aggregate of that, right? I guess in regard to the conversation we're having today, my focus is on the economic, right? So when it comes down to it, what I believe wealth is, I think in that the economic sense, it's for us as a people, it's aspiration. It's aspiration because we've been historically marginalized away from it. We got tons of ideas, intellectual property. We're the most religious people on the planet. But when it comes to those resources that can uplift us out of poverty, help represent us politically, to build businesses, that's where we're lacking for the most part, So that's what I believe wealth is in I guess a short frame of reference. Yeah.
Thank you. And I very much agree with you. And I'm glad that you talked about economics, because in framing this conversation, these three artists I grouped together in the God, Gold, and Kinfolk. This session 2 is focused on gold, materiality, or material wealth, the tangible expressions of how we see, perform, and define wealth in our community. So as each of the artists are talking about their work, I want you to use that kind of conceptual framework or that lens to understand what their work is kind of excavating and exploring, this idea of gold as a material or value, and the notions that our community is looking to explore. So I'm going to pose that same question to DaaPo. How do you define wealth? Especially, you talked about this duality of citizenship, both here in the US and then also in Nigeria. How do you define wealth, DaaPo?
Well, we're going to get more into that when I talk about some of my, the way I make work. And I completely agree with Alfred, not to repeat what he just said. But in addition to that, I consider wealth as anything that enriches my life, be it from the quality time with my kids, and the possibilities of how much I can define myself through my interaction with people or through the medium that I choose to convey one of my 1 million stories. My background gives me the opportunity that I have, the colorful history, my colorful upbringing. But then to be able to share that with people is the wealth, is the additional wealth that I have. The opportunity that I have to be able to say, or for someone to listen to me, for me to clad myself and get an audience of people to say, okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is how I see my interaction with your world is wealth to me. That is what it is, bottom line. I come from a society that as a way of naming people as they're doing. Olayinka, wealth surrounds me, is one of them. So in a way, I guess I came here with that also. My name says DaaPo, rich people that are coming together to become a family. Those are stories that I own, that I carry with me. It doesn't become of value until I share that story with other people. So basically, in simplicity, the possibilities are endless. The interaction that I have with people is first and foremost the most wealthy thing I have. And that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, it's important to understand perhaps the difference of how we personally define wealth along with how our communities define wealth. Because sometimes there's opposition in that. And I'm very excited to investigate and discuss what that means. Esteban, share with us a little bit about yourself and how you define wealth for you.
I would define wealth, by health, and also, by family. Just being able to have a family and being able to support a family with art. To me, that makes me feel wealthy, and just being able to buy supplies that I need, in order to get ideas out. That's wealth to me, because there was a time when I had a lot of ideas, but I couldn't afford supplies to get them out there on. So just being an artist to me is it's a form of wealth, because it's like a lot of people can't afford to be an artist. A lot of people got to work all the time to where they don't have the time to be able to get these ideas out. So wealth to me is a lot of things, and it's also I look at wealth in economic form, because without that you can't be healthy like you need to be in America. The healthcare system is so jacked up that if you're not wealthy, like you can't even afford to take care of yourself and your family. So wealth is it's a lot of different things for me, but those are the things that kind of define wealth in my life.
Oh, that's excellent, and I'm glad that you even extended beyond the framework that's been presented, because it's not just God, gold, and kinfolk. I think the beauty of being Black and the versions of Black that we all perform are all different, but all the same. So in understanding, what family is or kinfolk is also rooted in health, right? You can have all the riches in the world. You can buy, you can try and buy the best healthcare, but if you're sick, you're sick. And if there's no cure, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm really excited to dive deep into each of you all's work and better understand particularly how you have created works that tell the story of how you see and understand wealth through the lens of economics particularly. So I want to kick things off by asking some geared questions specifically about the work that's in the exhibition. Because the work that's in the exhibition I chose as curator not all are literal or overt presentations of how we see God, gold, and kinfolk as wealth, but again, an expansive exploration of how people from different economic and social stratas are able to see and understand wealth. So, Alfred, let's talk a little bit about your work, specifically the work RISI. This particular piece, well, both of the pieces that are in the exhibition are quite alluring. And one of the first things people say as soon as they come in is they look at the surface quality and some of the materials that you use to create these works. Can you walk us through a little bit about the materials and how you use those kind of as allegories or, visual devices in order to, tell the story of these individuals?
Sure. Well, I mean, my studio is located in the west end of Atlanta. I guess anybody who knows the area adjacent to Spelman and Morehouse and Clark, I'm in the hood, right? So, when I walk around the area, drive through the area, you passing by the houses with the cracking paint, right? You passing or sitting at the bus stop, with the stained and oxidized concrete, where the water has been sitting, where there's been erosion, right? Where there has been benign neglect, meaning that money's not pouring into the area, right? So, these backgrounds, the surfaces are reminiscent of that. These places that you might pass by, see, live in yourself on a day-to-day basis. So that's the reason why. I guess in regard to what I use, here in RISI, it's a combination of acrylic, gold leaf, which I render down to make that acrylic a little bit more luminescent, right? And I also use urethane plastics as well. So when it comes to the process of doing that, the plastic is down, the acrylic comes on top, and then I superheat it, usually with a heat gun. As soon as I lay it down, like within a minute and a half. And then when you superheat it and it dries, it starts to crack, to separate. I have some other tech things and additives I add in to kind of to control that process a bit. But that's one half of the equation. In regard to the figure, the removal of paint, of surface, is reminiscent of the condition of the people, right? So, when it comes to us as a group, Black folks, in regard to how this country has treated us historically, have been left to the elements. We are a people in a continual, perpetual state of disrepair. And that's not by our doing, that is by design. We've been, by design, put into a bottom caste. So by that metric, we have been put in a place where we have to eat the failure. When it comes to poverty, when it comes to lack of education, when it comes to not having equal protection under the law, as we've all been seeing as of late. That's the tax that's been levied upon all of us. And that's what these images are representative of, the realities of just being Black in this country, just existing. So, and in Renee, the same thing in regard to surface quality, it's the same thing. But I've also added in atomized steel dust, And I acidize it with mild acid, peroxides, things that are somewhat safe. Let me just say, I use some things that are I protect myself, but yeah, I wanted to create to show those rusts, and also use other things as well to oxidize metals in the work as well. But yeah, I guess that's a bit of an overview of the functionality of surface and material in my work.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I really enjoy about your work. Of course, I've known you for quite a while. We've been working together for some years, and I've seen the development of this, and the beauty of being able to have the exhibition and bring your work to New York is just watching people analyze the surface. The image to the right, Renee, people see that as like a piece that's been like forged out of fire. They think it's, that it's metal. They think it's some type of metallic, weighty surface. And it's beautiful to see people analyze and really take images of it and ask all of these questions, because, it gives this illusion of the weight, and using that as a metaphor for the weight that us as Black people carry because of all of the things that have, oppressed us as a people, not just, from your view, specifically in the West End of Atlanta, but this is something that I see, of course, all around the US, in Africa, throughout the diaspora, and Europe and other places, really wherever Black people are living and trying to thrive and survive. So it's really interesting how you use those materials to kind of push the ideas around what these people, our people, are experiencing, but also the type of people you capture. Something that you and I had a conversation about is how these women's hair is depicted, right? These aren't women who are, had just a blowout or, a press and curl. These are women who have a certain hairstyle based on their lifestyle. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, braids and things, like the natural that Renee has, that's so you don't have to have so much delicacy with your hair. You can do things and not have to worry about what's on top of your head. So you can do what you got to do, work, right? And also I got to point out, like, both of them are wearing T-shirt. They're not wearing Prada, Gucci. A T-shirt is something. That's a working man, a working woman's, uniform. It's, throw it on and go. Got things to do. So, there's a little bit of allegory when it comes to the symbolism. Is that, I'm glad you pointed that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really dynamic to see in person. For those of you who are in the New York area, definitely come by the gallery and check out the work, because it's unparalleled. It's really hard to capture just in images. It's definitely worth seeing in person. So thank you so much for sharing more about your work, Alfred. And we'll come back to you and unpack a little bit more about the work you're doing in this series, Two Fronts. Let's talk a little bit about DaaPo and his really amazing work that is often just the eye catcher that brings people into the gallery. This beautiful piece called Rags and Riches is actually suspended in the window as you walk along Marcus Garvey Avenue here in Brooklyn. And it has all of these different elements and ornaments that you've collected and put together. Can you tell us a little bit about what you want people to see with all of the elements? We see Monopoly board, we see Monopoly money, rosary beads. DaaPo, share a little bit more about your work and what you intend the viewer to see and observe.
Well, I think you've asked two questions that are quite different without knowing. I'll first go with what am I trying to communicate with my work in general? For me, It's mostly about rendering the textures of my experience as closely as possible to you, the viewer, or the person that I'm communicating with. Much more so that it's an aesthetic aspect of the work itself. I mean, obviously, I'm concerned with crafting something that doesn't look too bad. But the way I see it, it's basically like I'm taking the skin off of my body and I'm cladding you with it. I always say that. I'm draping you with my skin. I want you to feel what I'm trying to say as closely as possible without you ever to meet me and hear me talk about my work. Does it feel sticky because it's my skin? Maybe. I mean, wearing human tissue tends to feel that way. But joking aside, it's not meant to be comfortable all the time, you know? To continue the metaphor, you know, from where I'm standing, you're engaging with my work, you're wearing a piece of me, a piece of the side of my story. Summer, winter, ready to wear Mr. DaaPo's collection, you know? Kind of, you're wearing that time where I was so mad at Donald Trump. I don't know who Mr. Biden is, but I'm gonna go vote against Donald Trump. You're wearing that time when I'm looking at someone and I'm thinking, why are they treating that African-American man like that? I just walked by the same space. I'm an African and my accent says a different story and they treated me differently. You're wearing that time every time that I'm trying to tell you, you're wearing that time, if you feel me. I realize that the human test for freedom will always provide hope for a way to get out of the fuck-upness. So my work is always about that. At least that's what I try to do most of the time. Now, cycling back to rags and riches, I'm still trying to do the same thing. I'm using all these tools and all these materials and all this medium to convey a message that is possible. When I use textile and I'm stitching by hand, I am trying to say to you, is it possible for the viewer to see that every pause and every comma in my story is a stitch? And the reason why I'm using one fabric, one texture, and one color pattern on the side of another one is because I'm trying to see that there's another paragraph in my story. There's a woman walking on the street and she's naked. Oh, why? I want you to be able to tell the story by just seeing the work. The fake money, the crucifix, the cowrie shells, explain anything you might want to, I want to highlight. The multiple conversation that is happening here is about the communities and the way wealth is, this particular work, for example. And it's the ultimate, the monopoly, for example, is the ultimate visual of the conversation surrounding the idea of how the world is, my world is, and how I see it. It's about the communities I am living in and the way wealth is seen in that community. It's about a game, about a market structure that is characterized by a single seller who faces no competition and is the sole seller. He's the only person selling his goods with no close competition or substitute, and he enjoys the power of setting the price of his goods and making sure no one shares the power with him. The cowrie shells that I use as an attachment to spirituality in Yoruba culture, where I'm from. It's a form of currency, yeah, it's used in divinity. Jeremiah, you'll be aware of this more. You buy stuff with it and you worship with it. It's a form of currency and it's very spiritual. And that's why, and I'm also trying to say, that's why it was so easy to be used as a tool for the colonial masters to get away with murder. At least 30 billion cowrie shells were brought to the Bight of Benin between 1500 and 1875. Imagine that. They flooded the market with this stuff because they know we use it in Africa for something that is very, very personally spiritual to us.
And you know, something that's really powerful about your work is the duality of all of the objects and its presentation, because yes, where it's suspended here in the gallery, it's in the window, suspended from the ceiling. So whether you're walking during the day or at night, you see one side. But because of all of the complications, all of the suspended elements and ornamentations and references, it pushes you to want to know more. What's on the other side, because you can see a clear separation of the flag. And when people come inside the gallery, because oftentimes when Richard and I are here, showing people the exhibition, people come and they literally try and walk around the flag to see two sides of the story. And you and I have had extensive conversation about the American experience, especially being an immigrant or being of African descent in this country. Even Alfred talks about it quite often. You have a different side of America, you know? There's one side of America that thinks this is the land of the home, or the home of the free and the brave. And then there's others, like many of us Black people, who are just trying to survive. And the way that you interplay the use and really the history and ontological kind of exploration of currency, monopoly, the coins, the cowrie shells, also kind of push into this idea of America as a game or a thought experiment. And it's been fun to watch people really, sit back and like, why is this American flag so foreign, but also so familiar? And I think that's the powerful nature of a symbol as a flag, because it's a unifying object as far as nationhood and nationality, but it's also quite divisive when you begin to pick it apart.
Well, if I may add one more thing real quick, just based off of what you just said, I have this dual experience of being Nigerian and I'm also based here, which I already said. So the well, for example, and this piece talks a lot about well, it has a dual connotation to me. There are two worldviews here, just like you said, and they're so far apart in the spectrum. Americans love to talk about money. That's the way I see it. It's their comfort zone. Heck, they sue people here for the most mundane thing, very trivial thing, just so that the court can place a monetary judgment in their favor. Wealth is very material and literal. But on the other hand, wealth is dematerialized in Yoruba culture where I was raised. I'll tell you one quick funny story. Yoruba names their offspring in the doing. Just like I said, Olayinka, DaaPo, Adekunle, it's always something that happened that will make them name their kid, And even in continuation of that, the value system that Yoruba people place on money is very unique and worth studying. They have Lakaye, which is application of the knowledge of wealth, the application of knowledge. It comes first. I think Iwa, which is integrity, comes second. A man with integrity is a man of his word. They have courage and fearlessness, and then they have occupation and sustenance, and then wealth they push all the way to the back. The value they place on material, and yet spirituality makes it push all the way to the back because they don't want to keep talking about it. It belongs to the gods. So again, I'm here with that experience, and also the experience that I have been in the US. So understanding wealth is what I put in this work because it merges my experience of both worlds. So the freedom to express myself is of incredible value. And that's what you're seeing in my work.
Thank you so much. And again, as they were saying in the chat, the show is definitely something you have to see in person. We understand during this quarantine time and self-isolation, a lot of you aren't able to travel or may not be comfortable. I've dropped a link in the chat that allows you to virtually view the gallery. And literally, it is a really amazing experience where you can not only see the work, but there's audio tags that allow you to hear more from the artist specifically about a lot of the works in the exhibition. Thank you, DaaPo, for sharing. And we'll be coming back to you to learn a little bit more about your work and other things that you have coming up. I want to hop over to Esteban and talk about this really amazing work that I'm actually sitting in front of, The Gift and the Curse. One thing that I really enjoy about Esteban's work is, he's not shy or afraid to take a lot of these jabs, and oftentimes a satirical jab at that. This one, I feel, particularly at the Black church and understanding how we glorify money, right? This idea of value monetized and in the material form, and what we place our beliefs in. So Esteban, tell us a little bit more about what you were aiming to convey here, especially with the title that you have written across the top, The Gift and the Curse.
Yeah, so, I guess like the main idea behind the piece was to just kind of show kind of like a snapshot of a family, not necessarily a church family, but just a family who came into a lot of money somehow, and then lost focus on each other, and then lost focus on God. So I've seen that play out before, what I'm saying, in my life, not necessarily personally with my family or anything, but just with other people, how one person in the family can come across a lot of money and it can benefit the whole family, but then it can also destroy a family. You see like these lottery winners who they come across a lot of money and then a few years later the whole family is destroyed because that focus went from, or the focus could have gone from God to money, or it could have gone from family to money, but whatever the case is, the focus is on money. And when the focus is on the wrong thing, other things are allowed to sneak in. So like kind of like with this piece, when I have the devil, that right there is just kind of the devil creeping in, talking to the baby in the painting is just reminiscent of me growing up, and how at a very early age I valued wealth just because of what I saw on TV and what I saw, who I saw being highlighted and put on a pedestal. It was always wealthy people. It wasn't the person that was helping out the most people. It was who has the most money, and at an early age, that's what I wanted. So with this piece, it was just kind of to show, when the focus is not on each other and the focus is not on God, a lot of things can happen. If you look all the way over to the right side of the piece, there's a group of people kind of talking, and they're kind of plotting to figure out how to get their cut of the money, and they're having their own personal discussion. Even though they're part of the big family, they're still having a little side discussion on how they could get their hand on some of the money. And when I put that part in the piece, I was kind of thinking about just how when a family member dies, how sometimes the family swoops in to try to collect what they've been promised or what's on the will, and how it just changes people's character. So that was kind of the idea of that group of people on the right side of it. But the main idea was just money can be the biggest gift, and it can help us get out of the situations that we're in, but it's a fine line, and if you lose focus on what's important, it becomes a curse, and you can end up worse than before you got the money. So that was it's kind of the idea behind the piece.
Yeah, and I think you done it in such a unique way, but even though somewhat the visual language is overt, I think it's really well done because it makes you think critically about the divisive tactics that you have succumbed to as an individual within your community, right? It may be a faith community, it may be in your family, it may be in your neighborhood. What are the elements that have separated you from your relationships? And oftentimes it leads to money. In the last conversation, I made the reference to something that I often hear a lot growing up in Atlanta, in the South, paper chaser. Everyone's out there trying to get the money. And so much of our experience as Black people, no matter where we are, I have observed kind of different versions of Black performing this chase, this pursuit, the same way that DaaPo makes reference to the monopoly money. It's a game, right? And if we're not working together, you're depicting a whole family here. And you can see a part of the family plotting on the side. You got cousins who you thought you were really close, but that money came and all of a sudden they're new, they're acting brand new. And I know, particularly working in contemporary art, to be self-critical about our industry is so many Black artists, particularly now, are ascending into different economic stratas because of the focus and emphasis on Black visual culture and the resources that are coming into our community. And I've seen it firsthand, how it has ruined relationships. But again, it's a tool. Money is a tool, and it's also based on a value system, right? $1 is only worth $1 because everyone believes it. At the very moment that we, as not just a Black community, but as a nation say, we no longer believe in US currency, it loses all its value. So I really enjoy this piece, particularly, having the money bag, hanging on the cross. These jabs, I think are really interesting because watching people come and look at it, they're like, oh my God, that's sacrilegious. It's like, well, why is he doing that? But being able to unpack, the symbolism of how you place certain things within your painting, I think makes it approachable and keeps people curious and asking questions. So thank you so much for sharing more about your work. Now I want to take the time to allow all of the artists to actually interact with each other and have a discussion amongst themselves. This opportunity is for them to share more about their thoughts, not just about the work that's in the show, but the ideas that they share in common and maybe questions they have for each other. So I'm gonna allow you all to take over the conversation from here. You can unmute yourself and ask each other questions on different things you observe in each other's work. And yeah.
Mr. Whiteside, how you doing today?
Good.
Hey man, love your work. Hey, I got a quick question about, I'm big on materiality. What do you use to paint with, man? What's your preference?
Most of the time it's acrylic and acrylic gouache. But then sometimes some spray paint and that's basically pretty much all that I've been using over the last couple of years is the acrylic gouache, and then spray paint too sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
DaaPo, got a question for you. Same question. Materiality. What, when it comes to the presentation, the hanging, the fabric. Can you tell me some more about the choices you made to come to that, to come to your stylization?
Well, that's always a very difficult stage of the walk, the presentation, because like Jeremiah was saying, there's always this trying to refer visual reference to the duality of my work, but in the fact that, for example, the American flag that I use as a canvas to express some of these stories has two sides. So I want you to be able to see both sides, as opposed to just hanging it on the wall where you don't see the other side of the issue that I'm trying to talk about. So it always asks, I come to this stage where I'm looking at, okay, how do I hang a flag? It has to be suspended from the ceiling, or I have to build some kind of a contraption that holds it in place in the middle of the floor, you know? And I'm happy that Jeremiah and Richard came up with this idea of hanging it on the window, because you see part of it from outside and you come in, which actually, and then you walk in and you're able to walk around it, which actually works for me. And by the way, it's completely two sides of the one story that I'm trying to tell. So I want you to be able to view one side, and I want you to be able to see what I'm saying, and I want you to go to the other side of it, and it's completely different. It's a completely different story. Just like your pieces, when you submit 2 or 3 or 5 works to a group show, for example, you have one work with one name, you have one work with one name, you have one work with one name. And I'm using that term because I'm trying to say that's one work that is very specific, another one that is specific, and another one that is specific. So I'm submitting one work, but it's 2 works in one. Again, it's a tale of 2 cities. One side doesn't see the other. And if they do, it's because they share a backbone. So they're related, but they have their own separate stories. And that's the way I want to see it. So
cool. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
I got a question for Alfred.
Esteban.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask about the style of your characters in your painting. How did you decide that's the way you want them to look like?
Well, I mean, in regard to how they look, you know, I go out to the street and I go and meet folks, man. I don't bring them to the studio and pose them and position them. I catch them in conversation.
Do you talk to do you talk to your subjects prior? Do you listen to stories?
No.
Yeah.
No, more often than not, it's on the fly. It's on the fly, you know, and oftentimes, you know, when I'm out and about, you know, barbershop, beauty parlor, you know, chicken wing spot, gas station, you know, it's just like, you know, introduce myself. Hey, how you doing? You know, tell them what I'm doing, who I am. And conversation starts. You know, I ask, can I take a photograph of them while we're talking? And more often than not, people say hello. And say sure, you know. And there's some people who don't. There's some people who like, nah, I don't want my picture taken. I'm good with that. But most people say yeah. And you know, during that conversation, and we talking, and you know, they tell me about themselves. I'm telling about myself. I'm shooting photographs. And when it comes to what I bring back, you know, and what I glean from the conversation about who they are, you know, things of that nature, then I pare photographs down. I combine some when it comes to how they're the composition of the work. But you know, usually I choose something that I think is emblematic of who that person is, you know, in that interaction, who I believe that they are, from what they told me. And that's how I come to it, man. You know, that's my process, so to speak.
What do you so I know you were saying, like, what type of material do you use to paint on top of? Like, are you using wood, or are you using canvas, or?
I'm
trying to figure out how to get the how do you get the plastic, you know, melted on there without it, you know, damaging.
Well, the thing is that I use an epoxy. You know, it's a 2-part formula material. So what it is, when it comes down to the application, I have to make sure that the bottom layer that's between the layers of acrylics or whatever I'm trying to do to create the texture, that the bottom layer has tooth to it. So either mix a little bit of pumice, and then I sand it. Then when I layer it on, it goes down into those cracks, and it holds, but it still has that on the top layer has that sheen, that sheen, and it's also flexible. You know, I don't have to worry about it cracking because it's basically a thin membrane of rubber. So I'm very confident. I haven't had any. I've been doing it for 5 years, in or around, so I haven't seen any fluctuations when it comes to the archival nature of it. Is very, very stable, and I'm also experimenting as well. I think my intern is in the chat, is in the room, and we're gonna be doing some interesting things in the next coming weeks, dealing with some things I've been thinking through in regard to material. So, but yeah.
I wanted to, Jeremiah, do we still have time?
Yes, please continue. Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to ask something about both Ivan, Esteban, and Alfred, and it's something that I'm always thinking about. And someone asked me the same question over and over again, and I'm always having an issue with the right answer to it. The question is, what is the responsibility of us as artists to speak on behalf of an entire group of people, so to say? Just like any other person, I personally crave connections, it's the primal urge to share ideas and emotions and thoughts. And my art provides me the opportunity and the vehicle to communicate and connect with everybody else. Everyone has their own. Some people are incredible talkers. I think you are, Alfred. I couldn't do what you do. Yeah, I had to sit out all night to practice for how I'm going to communicate with people today. It's not that easy for me. I can't for the life of me have my mouth say what I really want to say, unless I've decided that this person I'm talking to is a friend. So my vehicle, I'll say that my responsibility is to use my art as best as I can to give. Now, this is where it comes to my side of the story. Why leaving room for yours, as told by you? Most of my work addresses an audience in the literal sense of it. Hey, you, Alfred, Esteban, I'm talking to you. I'm trying to get the audience to be involved in the process that I'm making for work. But does it make me less of an artist if I'm not talking about other people's issues like you're doing? Because literally, Alfred, I'm always talking about myself and my interactions with people. So I guess my question to both of you is, what is the responsibility? Am I doing the right cause if I'm always talking about my relationship, my conversation, my story, my background, and what my communication with you is doing to me, what the facade of your building is doing to me, why I feel this way? Does it make me less of an artist? And if it does, what is my responsibility? What is your responsibility as an artist? Do you understand the question?
Yeah. I guess in regard to responsibility for me, my focus has always been on the people. I mean, shoot, I don't really talk about myself in my work per se. I'm big, I'm always keep my eye on what's happening, with our people at, in the local, state, national level. And it affects me, that is fuel for my work. And, I guess, and as of late, when it comes to what I'm doing, I've been laser focused on keeping on the condition of people, you know. And I have to say, I can't see my work deviating from that. At least not, you know, from what I'm seeing, you know, looking forward. You know, we've been in this pandemic. We've been, you know, we're seeing the unemployment. We're seeing what's happening in the street with police. You know, and that's just the easy stuff. But underneath that, all the things we've dealt with as a group all this time. And the only way I can extrapolate that, you know, as for how I feel about it and what I want to say about it, and what I want people in the future to understand about it, is through this work. When I'm gone in the ground, this stuff will still be around to talk to, even if, you know, if we do, quote unquote, overcome as a people. I would like this work to be presented or understood as a reminder of where we were, right? So, you know, 100, 200, 300 years from now, you know, people can see what Black folks look like. You know, I'm working on a piece right now. I'm getting to a mode of, you know, of working folks, you know, showing people in their uniforms, you know, working at, you know, the Waffle Houses, you know, the EMT workers, you know, the pizza delivery guy, you know, there's the quote unquote essential workers, you know, and even that term is kind of, you know, we work because we have to. It's not because we're trying to, you know, the folks out here doing this stuff because they're you know, trying to save the day during this pandemic we're dealing with. It's just because you have a family, you know, so you gotta go get in and out of this, you know, and get in the street and go to that job, you know, not because you really want to, because you got people to take care of, you know. So, you know, put that mask on and, you know, say a little prayer and hope you don't bring some home to your people. So, you know, that's when that's when I'm migrating into right now. But I guess historical markers, man, you know, place and time, you know, solely focused on these people in my community, my people. So yeah, I guess that's it in a, you know, why I do what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not your responsibility to tell the story, you know, as a whole. You know, I feel like you telling your own personal story is just as important as telling the story of all Black people, you know, because it's all telling the story just different ways. So I don't feel like I have a responsibility to do art any certain way except for truthful. That's the only responsibility I feel to my art, is just to tell the truth about whatever I'm working on. So whether it's only dealing with something that I personally dealt with, or something that somebody I know is dealing with, I feel like it's all just, you know, we're documenting history, and it's all important. And, you know, years from now, it's all going to be looked at, you know, with the same amount of importance, you know, because, you know, we're talking about a period of time and before us and probably what's going to be happening after us. So I think it's all, you know, kind of the same level of importance, just telling the story.
Good answer, man. I like to say it right there.
Answer.
Yeah, I think that's extremely well said, Esteban, and thank you so much for posing that question, DaaPo. I think all the responses have been really amazing, and you know, the way that I see it also, because I am a practicing artist as well, beyond curating in the art business and all the things that go on. You know,
do it all, Ojo. You do it all, man.
I try. You know, the beauty of working on all sides of not just media or artistic expression, the production, the sales, and all of that is you really have to do a self-analysis on who you are and your biases and your orientation to what you're doing. One of my favorite terms, I mean, people who know me probably have heard this phrase quite a lot, is the production of your desire. Like, what is causing you to want gold? What is causing you to want to be closer to God or closer to family or kinfolk? I think unpacking these systems and these urges that push us to decide, to paint, to put acrylic to canvas, to put oil stick, or to sew, to solder, to weld. These are the motivations that bring the sun up every morning. And I think the more and more that we understand each other's motivations, the more we're able to better unify as a people. Our responsibility wholeheartedly is to tell our story. Your story, your story, your story is the whole story. And the only way that story can be told is if it's told honestly and consistently and not wavering. Like Esteban said, it's like, tell me your truth. Tell me your version of Black. Because we're looking at 3 different parts of the country, well, 4 right now. And all of you are talking about the Black experience, right? This collective consciousness. And that's the beauty of being able to create work, is that there are these through points. As you see it and you learn to read an image, learn to read an object, you build the same visual literacy, the vocabulary to look, like, why is this figure here? Why did he choose this color? Why is he excavating or removing things from the surface? Why does Esteban sign his name, on the front? Like, what is the production of these choices? And it begins to draw people closer together. And that's the joy that I have in working in this industry, and particularly working with Black people, my people. It's like we all have the luxury to do many things, particularly being in the privileged state of being in America. But we also need to understand that, prioritizing our community is something that is of great importance to myself and Richard. And that's allowed us to work together with you all and give an additional platform for your story. It's not discovery. We didn't discover you as artists. You were already there and come from a long line of ancestry of makers. If you look at your own kind of familial history, there were people who were just making, sewing, soldering, cutting, sculpting, and you're just a new generational expression. So now I want to take the time to engage the audience and ask some questions. I'm going to have Clarissa come in, who's been monitoring the chat. I know we've had a number of questions come in. So I have Clarissa read out some of the questions in the chat, and then I'll go to the Q&A box and read some of them. Clarissa.
Hi, everyone. So I know we had about 2 people pose a question to Alfred, wanting to know more about the 2 women in your work. Who are they? How do you decide who you want to paint? What draws you to them is the question.
Renee, Reese. There's 2 folks I met out here again, out here in the community. I met Reese at a barbershop and Renee at a shopping plaza. Adjacent to it, yeah. I guess when it comes to the conversation, it was I think Reese had her kids with her, and Renee was by herself. And just hey, how you doing? Would you mind me taking your photograph? Then a little bit of conversation, while I'm shooting. It's that simple. I think, I guess in regard to what they do, I think Reese works at a school, and I'm not sure what Renee does. I think she I can't speak accurately to her occupation per se. But I can tell you what united both of them. They had stuff to do. It was the weekend, So when I remember that session, both of those, is that it didn't last long because they had a place to go. So yeah, that's what I guess when it comes to interactions.
And then someone wants to know if you use, if your pieces are on canvas. I know you were talking a little bit more about, the making of your work, but if you could just answer that again for them.
Oh yes, yes, they are on canvas. Yes.
Great.
And it's an 11.5 ounce canvas, just for clarity's sake. So.
Wonderful. Clarissa, are those all the questions from the chat?
Yes, from the chat. We do have a few in the Q&A section.
Okay, great. I think question from Busayo. She already asked that question, actually. Can you tell us a little bit about these two women? I think she was referencing the two images of Alfred's work, Reese and Renee. So thank you, Busayo, for your question. An additional question we have here from Jamal Love, our intern here at Richard Beavers Gallery. His question, I think, is posed to everyone. If not, Jamal, please clarify if it's geared to someone specific. But his question is, from an artistic standpoint, has your experience through this pandemic helped or hindered your work? So anyone can jump in here. It's kind of contextualizing this self-isolation time. Has it helped or hindered?
I can answer first. In regard to my studio practice, shoot, nothing slowed me down. Nothing slowed me down at all. I guess before the pandemic, it was the same practice. I'm a studio rat, so I'm always, in the lab. When everything hit, I guess it is a little different in regard to being able to physically go to exhibition spaces and to present, your work, what you're doing, or to go and see other people's work. Yeah, that's out of the picture right now. But luckily, because everything's in a virtual space, you're not losing too much. You can't see the tactile nature of everything, but being able to enjoy those spaces as you all have done with the virtual expedition, the version of it, that's been a beautiful thing. And I guess also too, in regard to opportunities, I guess it's kind of slowed people down, and in regard to being able to go to those places and focus on I guess a little bit on work, seeing what people are doing, in regard to what they're making art. Yeah, so I haven't suffered too much. I can't say that much. If anything, I can say things have been pretty good.
Thanks, Alfred.
I feel like it's helped me focus on what I want to work on without the influence of the outside world. But then it's also not being able to go to shows and not being able to interact with people and get that feedback, personally. That right there has just kind of been, I don't know, I'm kind of missed that. I feel like my work is better when I can talk to people face to face and get feedback. But as far as getting work done and the content of the work, I feel like it's gotten stronger just because it's not really much influence besides just what's going on, here in the house or whatnot.
Well, I won't lie. COVID shut me down. COVID shut me down. That I can say. My storytelling is about interaction with people. It's very, very, it's bad enough that my introverted self has so much to say for so long that when I discovered art and somebody literally said to me, that what you do is art because you're sharing your story with us. That was an eye opener for me. That was the beginning of the beauty of something that I've pressed that's been in me for so many decades. I have the stories. I'm trying to tell it. And you shut me down. You tell me to be home. I'm just sitting with my story at home. No one to tell. I'm used to that already. I need out. I need to be able to put it on someone. Circling back to what I said before, it's about me taking off my skin and cladding you with it. It's about me standing in front of a mirror and I'm seeing my skin in the mirror. It doesn't have a bone, but I'm seeing my skin. That has been taken out completely. Yeah, I'm doing more work. I'm able to express my work textually, visually. I'm able to stitch. I'm able to make stuff that represent what I'm trying to say. But if no one is seeing it, the major part of who I am as an artist, what I'm trying to do is completely removed. And my work is very, very, very expressive. It's very much about rendering. At the same time, it's very much communication. Is about engaging with the audience. I do this stuff where I write and I'm asking the audience to do stuff in front of my flag. Take a drink. I have a bottle of wine with cups, and I'm asking you to take a shot, throw the waste cup in the basket. You can't do that online. Has it given me a reason to kind of reorganize and redevelop ways to do my work? Yes. I'm now trying to tell the stories that doesn't necessarily involve people. But you can argue that, yeah, I've made way. I have made way, but those stories that I haven't been able to tell, they're as important. They're as important as the stories that I'm telling now. So, great, maybe it will get better. But for me, my art, it's people. Absolutely. I'm not going to take. So we'll get there. It's going to get better. Hopefully. Amen.
We're all hoping for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for your responses, gentlemen. We have another question here from Jolita Burns. I guess this is more broad to everyone. Are you planning to include recent events in your work, and how will you use them? Any comments on recent events? I know this could be somewhat of a targeted question because it's like everything you all are creating is based on how you see your work. But if, and keep in mind, we do have a number of questions, so try and keep your responses as direct as possible. Does anyone want to respond to that one?
Well, that's a yes for me.
Go ahead.
I know. All right, let me actually direct this question to Esteban, because I know his work quite often deals with kind of the immediacy of either what the news cycle tends to, put out. So Esteban, do you want to respond to that question about recent events and how you comment on that through your work?
Yeah, I mean, being here in DC, I felt obligated, to make some pieces dealing with the Capitol riots and the Capitol terrorist attack. But I'm also like trying to get to a point where Trump is gone, so I'm trying to move away, move away from the political scene a little bit for a time being. But then when that happened, it was like, no, I mean, I know I got to make a couple pieces dealing with it, and then I can get back to what I was doing. But yeah, I feel like I'm looking ahead and past the Trump presidency, but at the same time, if impactful things happen like they did a couple weeks ago, like I'm gonna document it somehow for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. I have another question here. I'm gonna hop around and make sure everyone gets a question in. Corinne asked a question to DaaPo. Do you have help when you put your pieces together, or are you doing everything, I guess, yourself?
Oh, it's all me. It's all me. It's you don't, and I'll be as humble as I can be. You don't get to see some of what goes into the craft because it's presented to you as a finished product. But there's a mastery of tailoring some of these things that I do. It's unstaged, it takes time, and it's so. Alfred and Esteban would, agree with me on this. It's so hard to tell a story when you're not opening your mouth to tell the story, basically. So I'm trying to put in stuff in there, and I'm using red thread, and I'm stitching with my hand. And I know for this particular sport, I have to change the color of the thread because it passes on what I'm trying to say. I'm drawing a pattern, so it's very important. So it takes time. I'm not in the art where I can solicit or ask help from other people. My pieces are very, very personal. They're about me and my reaction and my communication and my interaction with people. It's not something I can ask help for. I have to do it on my own because I have to feel it. Every piece of it, every stitch, every added stuff, everything that I find on the street to use is about me. I can't just describe and tell you, oh, just go make this piece. I'm going to be talking about Jeremiah, so try to see if you can get it as close as possible. It doesn't quite work that way with my type of art. It's very much about if I saw the Jeremiah, I have to make the Jeremiah. I have to draw the Jeremiah. End of story. Doesn't take away from all the other artists that have multiple studio assistants. No, it's just mine is different. No one else can do my work for me. Not because they can't, but because it's not personal to them. The moment they touch it, they're adding their story to it. It's my story. It's not theirs. It's got to be me. And it takes time to do.
Thank you so much for sharing. Another question coming from Hillary. Hillary, thanks so much for typing in the chat here. For Esteban, you mentioned you're a self-taught artist. When did you start creating and why?
So I started creating art about 6 years ago. And at the time I started creating art, I had played sports my whole life. So sports was pretty much all that I cared about. You know, it was just sports. And then after college, I played basketball in college, but after college, I didn't know what to do with myself. You know, I was trying to find something to fill that void that sports, filled up my whole life. So, you know, I was doing a lot of searching, and then my wife now at the time was my girlfriend. So I didn't have any money to get her something for Christmas. So I just painted her something. And, you know, through painting that, I was like, man, you know, like an hour passed and I didn't even, like, I was like totally spaced out, you know, I was totally relaxed, wasn't worried about money, wasn't worried about anything. So, you know, after I did that piece, you know, I started just painting a little bit more on my own. And then eventually I was painting every day. And, you know, before I knew it, I was painting, you know, just abstract stuff, just stuff that looked good. And then, you know, the Michael Brown killing happened, and that just kind of changed my whole trajectory, you know, for my work. I stopped trying to make artwork that was, you know, aesthetically pleasing, and I wanted, you know, my work to start having a message, and everything kind of switched since then.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I have another question here from Irma. I guess this is a broad question here. where do you see the future for people of African descent via the lens of religion and materialism? I know everyone has a juicy answer for that. Biggest smile I saw was DaaPo. You want to attack that first, or Alfred? Who wants to?
I'll let DaaPo handle that.
Can you read the question again?
Sure. Irma asked, where do you see the future for people of African descent via the lens of religion and materialism?
I'll choose one. Materialism. In this case, I know we labeled it gold for this show. I don't know. Just like every African American is trying so hard to have this bring back this touch to where they're from. I, as an immigrant from Africa, I don't know how easy it is. That we have a place and a time and stories to tell about where we come from, our past that has been passed down to us from generation to generation. Unfortunately, if we have to talk about materialism, for example, gold, it's a perfect example of one thing that speaks volume about the power of the human mind. Believe it or not, these things are very relative. We place so much value on a piece of rock or metal and bam, our mind functions that way. And come to think of it, it also opened the door into the power of human imagination. So I guess they just have to strive to not place as much value on it as my people, my forefathers have done. Because that's where every African American is from anyway, where I'm from, relatively. Gold is a blessing and a curse. They start wars for gold. People are starving all over the world for gold. It's the resource. Take it this way. If I had to say anything as an African to my Black American friends, I want you to know that it's a resource used to exterminate generations of people just because they place value on it. And we even believe that. We lose lives in Africa for that shit. One tiny piece of paper, for example, that rules them all. The value of the human mind. So if we decide tomorrow that bottle caps are super precious, then they become tools to rule nations.
Mm-hmm.
Man wakes up one day, decides there's a value in one thing, he places some extra special meaning and power on it, and that thing begins to overpower everyone, him included. To circle back and to conclude, the theme of this exhibition reminds you of that. God, gold, kinfolks. Let me say it again. And please, excuse my slight disarrangement here. A small piece of yellow rock is given a name and meaning amongst a closely knitted community of people. That itself is godliness. So there's your parallel. Our mind is too powerful, and we can allow it to overpower us if we let it be. So where do I think they need to be? Remove that. Go back to the roots. I hope in some way, in some little way, I'm making sense and I've gotten something across. That's all I can offer, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent reflection, because again, it pushes this notion of value, where we're putting our time, resources, and energy, and it is belief, and that's why I really enjoyed this conversation and the conversation amongst your works in the gallery space, because it usurps traditional notions and ideas of what we value and how we choose to internalize and externalize what we value. So I think that's an excellent way to pose it. Esteban or Alfred have any reflections or responses to either that question or DaaPo's response?
In regard to materialism and spirituality, going forward, I think if we're going to bring things back into the balance a little bit, I guess here in this country, one thing anybody who knows me can tell you about me is that I'm not big on celebrity and its influence on Black folks. I think celebrity is used in so many areas of our activity when it comes to politics, when it comes to understanding money, when it comes to education, when it comes to so many other things that are, again, aspire to in regard to wealth, and understanding it. It skews and mutates our understanding of our proximity to it or away from it. So when it comes to that, I hope we going forward, and to understand ourselves better, understand how we should move together as a group in regard to protecting and empowering ourselves. I guess when it comes to celebrity, there's nothing wrong with it in regard to the people knowing who you are, but it has been weaponized against African American minds, and I hope going forward we get away from it as it stands now, and start taking value more of the opinions and of people that are closer to us, and elevating and aggrandizing those folks that we see in close proximity in our houses and our neighborhoods, as opposed to folks on a TV screen or on a basketball court or a reality show. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for those reflections. Esteban, do you have additional thoughts on that?
I mean, I hope, just to kind of echo what DaaPo was saying, I hope that, that we can figure out a way to get back to the source and get away from so much materialism. But, with the way that social media is, it just seems like we're going, farther in the wrong direction. But, I'm hoping with, maybe because of the effect of COVID, people are going to change their priorities and put more emphasis into, God and kinfolk and spending time with family. And, I know through this time of just being in quarantine and being away from family, like, I feel like personally, I've already put less of an emphasis on money, because right now, I can't see my family. So that's all I want. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think that, like, moving forward, the current situation that we're all in, it could affect us in a good light. But then, once things get settled and back to normal, things could just go back to how they were. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think this time for all of us is extremely introspective, and I know for artists, there's already a lot of self-isolation in the production process. You're often gathering and imbibing all these stories from your experiences through your daily life, and then you're tasked to make and speak through materials. And I think Esteban's response speaks almost directly to Hillary's next and last question here. And she asked, do any of you think the current state of religion in the Black community is based strongly on materialism?
Whew. Prosperity preaching. Man, there was a time where there was radical religion. You know, when it came to Black folks understanding, you know, God, and not just when it comes to understanding, you know, and getting closer to the Lord, but there was a mindset in the church that it was a responsibility to help people outside of getting, you know, knowing their Bible. You know, when it came to things that we saw when it came to the civil rights movement, and how the church was utilized to get people together, share ideas, and to move forward, to do better things and to get laws changed for Black folks. You know, we have a very deep understanding of that. But over the last 50 years, the church has been, I mean, come on, man. The church is not being used as it was in the, you know, 50 years prior. A lot of the ones that, you know, again, I'm not indicting everybody that's, you know, church home or anything like that, but it's not being used to educate the people who sit in those pews. Yeah, I can throw stones at you know, the Eddie Longs and the Creflo Dollars all day long. Everybody knows how they get down. But when it comes to those churches in our, you know, our enclaves, wherever we may be, I think there is a, you know, a bit. I think it'd be a bit more can be done from the pulpit to get Black folks on the same page about some things, and to broaden and open our minds up and educate us about things that can be better, you know, done to help us. So that's my short answer.
Thank you. I totally agree. DaaPo, I saw you.
Jeremiah.
Oh yeah, I just thought.
I'm not. You're not gonna get me in trouble here when it comes to. I'm not gonna talk about religion. I'll just add one thing to what Alfred said. This didn't just start now. You know, religion and spirituality has been used from the centuries.
Yeah, of course.
To pray for Africa. They've taken over the resources for the price of and on seeing God. I'm not saying that in all due respect, but I'm saying it from what I've seen, and you know, talking as an immigrant, as an African that knows the story of where I'm from and where my people here are from. You know, I refer you to King Leopold. I was telling Jeremiah the other day when we spoke about the letter that he wrote in 1883 to Christian missionaries in African colonies. Dig it up. In a way, religion has been used as a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
You know,
most definitely.
That are underneath the feet of an African man. A very pragmatic approach, if you ask me. And it worked. And it's still working.
True.
$3 what I mean, good for you. You got $1 in your name, so you must be working.
Thank you for saying that, man. I gleaned over that part of.
I'm not exactly. $1 in your name, so go figure. So, very good, Jeremiah. Back to you. I'm not gonna get in trouble.
No, you're right, and I think it's important for us to have those open discussions because there's a history that has been eclipsed. You know, so much of that period of what they call slavery, we were never slaves; we were enslaved. I think, like our last conversation last week, nomenclature, the way that we are describing our experiences, like we're all here speaking English natively, you know, particularly myself and DaaPo being Yoruba, like that's a whole thing in and of itself. To be able to communicate in that language there's way more nuances there. And ancestrally, we all have a native tongue that there are often things that can't be described in English. So if we're talking about a history, what are the stories that are lost? Because we've only learned how to communicate in maybe one or two ways that aren't native to our ancestral lineage. And I think part of that has a lot to do with religion, right? And religiosity, you know, the organized structure of how you explore your faith and what you believe and what you call God and who you answer to. You know, I'm of the personal belief that it's a personal relationship and interaction, but so much of the Black community has taken on the mantle and has continued the tradition of what's been given to us and not what we are seeking, right? Verticality says communication between God and man. Horizontal says amongst ourselves, and oftentimes our head is on a swivel. And I think that's what's powerful about Esteban's work. It's like they're looking left and right. Like, ooh, he got this money. How can we take it from him, right? And what's really amazing about the visual language and the allegory in here is like, instead of looking up at the cross or looking at God, they're looking at the money bag.
The God, yeah.
You know, and that's the power that I think comes in art, that even if you don't speak English, right? God, gold, and kinfolk are universal truths. You may call them different things, but gold is a monetary, material value. God is a spiritual, ethereal being that you try to connect to or understand. And then kinfolk, you know. And I think that's the power of this exhibition. I know I'm talking it up like it's the greatest thing in the world, but it is because it is literally an exploration of our experiences collectively. And it's not just centered on what's happening here in Bed-Stuy, but you know, you all have 3 different perspectives in 3 different cities around the US, and then even, you know, DaaPo, who is, you know, from Nigeria. So, yeah, I think this has been a very generative discussion. Any closing thoughts or ideas that you want to share before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you to Richard for hosting the exhibition in his gallery, and I want to say thank you to you for curating this wonderful array of works and for putting the language around it, and bringing this all together. So thank you to you both.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
And thank you to you too, brothers.
And thank you.
Great time, you know, with this artist talk with you all today. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, my pleasure.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you tuning in. Again, the exhibition, Wealth Surrounds Me, God, Gold, and Kinfolk, is still on view now. We've chosen to extend it actually through the end of February. We'll drop a link in the chat so you can either register to view, or if you saw the virtual view link, you can check that out as well. We also encourage you to follow us on Instagram and all the socials. First at Richard Beavers Gallery on Instagram and Facebook, and even YouTube. There will be recordings of all of these discussions. And then secondly, Ilèkùn Wa, Our Door, my business that helped organize and put this together. Special thanks to Clarissa, who's been assisting with a lot of the tech in the presentation here. You can follow us at Ilèkùn Wa on Instagram, Facebook as well. Thank you again. Special thanks to Richard for hosting us in the gallery. Works are still available. So if you are interested, feel free to email us or drop your email in the chat, and we'll be happy to send you a list of available works. Thanks again. We look forward to seeing you next Sunday, same place, same time, same link. All right. Y'all stay safe. Wear a mask, please. Wear a mask. All right.
Let's go.
Take care.
All right. Peace.
All right, Gay. Thank you so much.
Thanks.